Hi, I'd like to talk about tuning your instrument. It's a complicated subject. It requires knowledge, strength, leverage, and an instrument that's set up properly. So maybe I can talk you through those. All student instruments come with, or should come with, 4 fine tuners. So those are the easiest way to start tuning. You make small motions or movements, micro movements, and you are pretty safe. You're probably not going to break a string that way. You do have to keep it from going all the way down and hitting the wood, which can cause a lot of vibration and noise and scratch up the instrument under the tailpiece. You probably need to get an electronic tuner in the early days, something with a needle or a light system that tells you, yes, I'm on the accurate note. Okay, that's a good starting point for tuning. Your teacher can get it really close for you in your lesson, and then you go home and hopefully nothing shifts radically, and then you can get it back to, the needle can go back to the top on each string, and you can tune it that way. But eventually you want to move beyond fine tuners and actually be able to tune like a professional in front of the pegs. So I will tell you a couple things about that. You want your pegs to be set up so that they're vertical and not horizontal. My E string is horizontal, E string peg, and that's the worst place that most of the pegs could be in. It doesn't matter on the E string because I don't tune the E from this position ever. I use the fine tuner for an E string, always. All professionals use an E string fine tuner unless they're Baroque specialists and they're using gut strings, and then you have to tune the E string from the peg. But the way you get your peg to be set in the proper place would be to unwind the string a little bit and pull the string out a little bit, or push it in depending on where you think it was. Wind it back up and take a look. Are you there? If they're brand new strings, they're going to stretch some, so it's a problem. You may have to tune it and then come back the next day and do this process. So you work with it. Pull it out or push it in after you've loosened it until you can get it vertical like that. Okay? If there's an angle like this, it's going to be a lot harder to tune at first. You get to where you can do it, but this isn't very good. And this is horrible, actually. You don't want that one. This one's not great either, but I can do it, but not in the early days. Okay, so then the next thing is that your strings go into the peg box correctly. If the string comes across the nut and then does not follow a track that puts it right up near the wood or the peg box wall on the side of the peg head, you have a problem. If it crosses the nut and goes the opposite direction in any way, you are going to have a string that's pushing that way. Now your pegs are conical, they're tapered, and you have to push this way to get it to sit. And if it's pushing that way, it's trying to unlodge and loosen your peg. So make sure when you wind it up that it ends up going near the peg box wall. If it's too hard to move, look in and see if you jammed it up against the peg box wall. There's a risk of cracking the wood, right, where the hole is drilled. So you do not want to jam it in there right next to the wood and then keep turning it as you're putting on a new string. It's very dangerous. Also, you will not be able to move the peg, and it can actually hurt your hand, hurt your wrist. You can strain your muscles. So it should be really close, or even maybe just touching, but not tight. Okay. So these two would be against this side. Okay. So then what do you do with your hand to tune from the pegs? We would tune our A string first to either a piano A or an electronic pitch A. So you're going to pick your middle finger and your thumb and put it on your A string peg like that. And take your first finger and wrap it around the scroll. So there's a pulling. This will pull the peg into the hole and help it to stick. So not only are you turning this direction, but you're pulling sideways. Okay? That's how I do the A string. I get the A from the electronic tuner or the piano, and then I learn how to listen carefully for beats or flutter. That's another lesson completely. Right now, if you're using an electronic tuner and trying to learn how to tune from the pegs, no problem. We're just learning the mechanics here. So for the D string, I hold the peg between my index finger or first finger and my thumb, and I take the middle finger and the ring finger and set it around the scroll. So then the pulling motion is this